Hey, this is your Tia's favorite reporter, Emmy Award-winning reporter. Wait, hold on.
Dang, he's really busting it out.
About to bust it out. Emmy Award-winning reporter. Hold on. We'll do this again. Hello. Mic check. Hey, this is your Tia's favorite reporter, Emmy Award-winning reporter. I'm here with my best friend, Albert Gonzalez, a.k.a. Trebla Art. But we're here to talk about this commission piece he did for me. And I'll kind of let Albert just kind of talk about just everything that went into it. This is, 3 years in the making? Mm-hmm. Yeah, 3 years in the making. Captures a big part of my life.
This painting right here was inspired by your life story. But before that, I had created a piece about myself and like this metaphysical piece about growing up in like the South Side and West Side and having just like a really rough childhood. And so then when we had talked about doing a commission piece, you had mentioned that you really liked that one. And I thought, okay, well, I want to do something similar, not exactly the same, obviously, but I've been working on developing this approach to storytelling in my work. And yeah, this is like, very special symbols from your life.
So what's cool about this too is I remember we were at Blanco Cafe. Shout out Blanco Cafe. Albert was doing a sketch and I was just throwing him ideas of what I wanted this piece to capture. And this is kind of, I call it a follow-up piece to another painting that I commissioned an artist for, Maro de la Tierra. So that piece that Maro did was about us surviving the summer, my mother and I, without electricity, right? And what that was like. This piece kind of captures what happened after that and how I responded to it, right? How I grew out of it. Obviously, we needed the Wabi Sabi. We needed Albert's signature. I needed the flower to represent me, right? But it's me coming out of concrete. And it's to play off from the poem that Tupac once said. One of my favorite interviews that he did, he was promoting a film right before, it was the last film he did before he died, but he basically talks about the rose that grew from the concrete. And so we as humans, right, we were so empathetic to animals, to plants, but not each other, right? We're so harsh on each other, we're so judgmental to each other. So Tupac talked about, you could see a rose with a crooked stem and damaged petals, but you wouldn't focus on it if you saw it growing out of concrete. If you saw it growing out of concrete, you would
marvel at just seeing a rose grow through concrete. So why is it that when you see some ghetto kid grow out of all of the dirtiest circumstances and he can talk and he can sit across from you, make you smile, make you cry, make you laugh, all you can talk about is my dirty rose, my dirty stems, and how I'm leaning crooked to the side. You can't even see that I came up out of that shit.
That's how I felt about myself when I was a kid, right? I was this kid growing out of concrete, growing out of these circumstances, trying to flip this shitty hand that life dealt me into something decent. This was like my response, right? We lose our home on the West Side. We move in with my grandma, which she had this bright turquoise house right here on Potosi Street, right in front of the handball courts on Laredo and Sasamora, right next to Cooper Middle School. If you're a real one, you know what Cooper Middle School is on the West Side. And so we ended up living with my grandma for 2 years, right? From 05 to 07. While all this is going on still, San Juan is my safe haven. My grandma's house is more than a mile away for a West Sider that's like 30 minutes away.
Two buses.
Yeah, right? If you gotta take more than 2 buses or you gotta go into multiple neighborhoods. But it was my safe haven, and my favorite thing about this that Albert captured was the peace in the barrio. And it's one of my favorite murals in San Antonio. And it's so simple, as a simple message, peace in the barrio. That's what it brought me. It brought me peace. It brought me peace when we lost our home. We didn't have electricity. It brought me peace when my mother had a pill addiction. It brought me peace when we were just couch surfing, right? This place has always been there for me. And above that, we got my favorite Allen Iverson sneakers dangling, hanging on the power line. You can't see, but I'll do a tight shot of it. We have a black basketball right here in the bottom corner with green stripes. When our house didn't have electricity, ironically, my sister had gifted me a basketball before we lost electricity, and it glowed in the dark. And so for me, my source of light was velas, candles, and this basketball. But I kind of want to throw it back to Albert. You could have easily just made this simple, no details. This is a super detailed piece with the concrete, with the bricks on one. You could have just did the mural, but you went super detailed. Why did you do all that?
I just felt like it would capture, you're really the one that's enjoying it the most, right? It's
Yeah.
your bedroom. But it's like those little details, and I feel like that's sort of like the way we take in like our neighborhoods, especially like in the West Side. Like it's so vibrant with like so many different things, the good and the bad. But I feel like when you're from there, you take in all those little nuances, and I feel like it wouldn't do it justice just doing the simplistic version of the San Juan Center. And so I wanted to kind of capture those little details in the bricks, and same thing with like the mural. I think it just helps highlight that story even more, because we have, like, when you look at the concrete, the street, you could look even closer and you're going to see like little rocks from where the concrete's broken, and it breaks in the middle of the street and it goes all the way towards the San Juan Center. And if you look closely at the San Juan Center, like there's cracks in the San Juan Center. And I feel like that was like a representation of like the fact that you still go give back your time to like those kids, and you still invest your time to like make an impact on those kids that probably still find that place as like a safe haven.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's important to show how, like, yeah, you're growing out of the concrete, but like it's affecting other spaces in that general area. Same thing with like the telephone line. I was explaining it to someone the evening when we unveiled the painting.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, like growing up in the neighborhoods, especially the rough neighborhoods, like you'll occasionally see those shoes on the power lines, and like I never understood exactly what they meant. I just knew that like in some cases it was kind of cool or fun. It wasn't until like later on learning that like sometimes those are symbols in different neighborhoods, and like they mean certain things. And so I wanted to use it in a way that like you're leaving your mark in the neighborhood, and with your shoes that you had as a kid that were your favorite, but not in the essence of like warning about like the neighborhood, but like as like a kind of like your own little statue in the neighborhood where you grew up. So it's like you're gonna go and buy a brand new pair of Iversons and throw those up in the power lines, and like, yeah, when kids see it and knowing that it's you, like it's like, yeah, like they're not up there as a warning, they're up there as like, hey, like I'm from here, I'm coming back. Like if I could do it, you could do it too. And like I'm using it more as like a beacon for like to give those kids hope. I don't know if anyone will ever drive down the West Side and see a brand new pair of shoes just hanging on the power lines, but I feel like in this painting, it becomes like symbolic in that way of like, you could do it. The same way that when you were growing up, you didn't know what you were going to be able to do with your life, but somehow you persevered through it and you overcame. And so, I also wanted to highlight, those subtleties in the story about like the glow in the dark basketball. So I used photoluminescent paint in the basketball and in the moon and in the stars, and specifically the background is a sunset. And so I feel like that's also, growing up, and especially in the areas where we grew up, it's like you do not want to be walking around at nighttime. So there's another symbol to like get your ass home.
Yeah.
And so, the stars are coming out, the sun's setting, balls out in the street, and yeah. And then the house too. And then if you look closely on the house, there's a red cardinal. And I wanted that.
Yes,
to be like a symbol
I
of my
always
mom.
forget about that. Yeah. No, dude, I love that you did that nice little touch, man, because it was crazy, because kind of going back to like what Tupac had said, right? You could see someone, right, a kid from the barrio, from the hood, and for some reason, no matter like how amazing they are, or how gifted they are, or what they contribute, people just focus on their flaws. And I love that it's like this perfect marriage with what Wabi Sabi represents, right? Seeing the beauty in the imperfect, right? And so for me, growing out of all of that, I've had family that were critical of me, made me feel like I wasn't a a good kid, and I was a good kid. I didn't drink till 24 years old. I didn't start going to bars till 23.
He
Like,
swore he was never gonna drink a day in his life. He would be like, "That's yucky."
I went to therapy. That's what happened. I went to therapy. My therapist said, "Hey, you don't drink because your father was an alcoholic," and I'm like, "Oh wow, that makes perfect sense now." But for me, it's just it's beautiful because when I see that, I see myself. Right? Yeah, it's a flower, but it represents me. And this just embodies everything that is me, right? When you speak about me, you have to talk about the West Side. When you speak about me, you have to talk about, all the things that I support, all the things that I continue to support, right? And like San Juan, we were blessed enough to get a coach named Ralph Rivera Banchi, who is a legend on the West Side. He was at John Tobin for over a decade. He was at the Alazan Courts for over a decade. He was at San Juan from '09 to 2020, yeah, 11 years, and he still gives back. Like this past fall, in the freezing cold rain, we gave out food. It's something that he's been doing in the San Juan area for so long, and so it's just really cool. Like this is just like I've posted photos of this already, and like I've had friends who grew up in the San Juans and they see the building and they get all hyped. They're like, dude, that's so dope. Like, and you see the mural, and I always go back to the mural because it's like peace in the barrio. What a beautiful message to share with people. Because it's like, man, like we see so much, we see the bad, right? But there's so much good in the barrio. There's so many amazing people from the West Side. There's so many people who have contributed, not even just to San Antonio, to this country, to this world, that are from our neighborhood, and it makes me proud. Man, Lanier's produced so many legends, man. You got Orlando Mendez Valdez, from our generation, but you got Dave Rodriguez, who 1943-45 Lanier State Championship team, who's still alive to this day. He lives in El Paso, legend. Freaking Gamez Law. I didn't know Gamez Law went to Lanier until I went to the 100-year anniversary of Lanier. I'm like, whoa, Gamez Law went here? And it's just like so many people that contribute, right? And every facet that makes us special. It's cool, man. I don't know. And so like for you to capture this, for those of y'all who don't know, like Albert explained earlier, the moon and the ball glow in the dark.
And the stars.
And the stars. So I have a video of that. So we'll just lay it over this. But
Cue the B-roll. Oh, sorry. Yeah, no, dude. It was just a honor to be able to create something very special for your art collection, and something that you get to share the story about. I think that's what makes collecting art more special is finding those pieces that you really connect with, but also being able to commission a painting and have an even deeper story. Like I'm always advocating for people to support the local art scene. So I'm a big appreciator of all the advocating you do for the art scene and all the collecting that you do, helping other artists, get by in their own right. And yeah, hopefully those of you watching get inspired to commission a local artist from your area and start or build your collection today, because you too can have a story on your wall rather than live, love, laugh, which is cool, $12.99, whatever you spend on it.
Forget that.
But like, there's only so much depth to that piece of the story behind that. So go out to your local art galleries, your local art events, support living artists, and go out and support your art community.
Yes, support your local artists. You don't got to be rich. I don't got money like that. But, I'm doing all right for myself. I could spoil myself. I could get name brand cereal now. But I started collecting when I was a broke college kid. And it starts off with stickers, prints. Then you slowly level up, right? And then soon, before you know, you have a nice little collection. So don't feel like you have to have money to support local artists. Because trust me, they appreciate it. They put their heart and their soul. And look at what you get. This is going to live longer than I will. And this tells my story. My story, right? I'm busy telling other people's stories, right? And I love it. I love telling people's stories. And I want to do it till the day I die. But it's fun every now and then when people get to tell your story. And so Albert captured it in this beautiful canvas, and I've saw him working on it for years. So it's cool to see the work be done and hung on my wall. And when I turn on the lights, you know, the cuckoo can't get me because the moon and the ball and the stars glow in the dark.
But he still runs to the restroom.
Naruto run. Obviously, y'all know where to find Albert Gonzalez, Trebla Art. Y'all know where to find me. Tell your tia that she's got a new video to look forward to. So tell her to collect art también. Remember to always stay brown.
You didn't press record?
Damn.